Hey guys, so today we're going to be starting our unit on energy. And one of the first things we have to talk about when we're talking about energy is what energy actually is. So that's what this video is going to be about. So energy, when I like to think about it, I like to think about it like a cycle. And we'll talk more about that, but energy, anytime I think about it, I kind of think about a dog spinning around in circles, back and around and around and around. And I say that because energy is um, basically converted, and there's different types of energy. So the first type of energy is kinetic energy, and that's basically energy that anything in motion is called kinetic energy. So it's energy that is in motion and it's movement, and it's the ability to do work. So when you're doing something physical, that's called a kinetic energy. Energy can also be stored. We know energy is stored in our fat cells, and this type of energy is called potential energy. It has the potential to do work. So energy that is stored is potential energy, energy that's being currently used and is doing some kind of movement or work is called kinetic energy. So those are the two types of energy. Um, like I just said before, energy can be converted, so it's transferred. So in this picture, we have an example of a guy riding a bike up a hill. So at first, he's using kinetic energy. He's pedaling up this hill and using energy in the form of kinetic energy to get up to that hill. Once he reaches the top, he's not moving anymore. He's kind of staying stationary, and that would be called potential energy because he has the potential to move down this hill, but he hasn't yet used it. And then once he goes back down the hill, he's again using more of a movement, and he's using energy again into kinetic. So you're going from kinetic to potential back to kinetic. So this is like that cycle before. You're using one type of energy, you're converting it into another, and then you're converting it back. So it's basically, you can continue to keep cycling. So energy transfer, it follows these basic principles. Um, this is called the law of thermodynamics. A law is just something that has been basically supported by multiple scientists, and it's basically when we explain phenomenon that we can't really understand. So the first law of thermodynamics says that energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only change from one form to the next. So what that means is all the energy that we have in our universe is all the same amount of energy. It's just being recycled over and over again. So we can't create energy. It can only be kind of used based on the energy we already have in the universe. And the second law of thermodynamics says that energy, there's always some kind of energy lost every time it changes form. So energy can't be changed from one form to the next unless without any energy being lost. And usually when energy is lost, it's usually lost as heat. So for example, let's say you're exercising. When you exercise, you sweat because you get very hot. You're getting hot because you're losing heat. So you're doing some type of work, a kinetic energy. So you're using kinetic energy when you exercise, and you're losing energy as heat. And that can be explained by the second law of thermodynamics. Um, so in cells and in our bodies, what energy is used is called ATP. And ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. And that has to do with its structure. So let's dive into the structure right now. So it has three phosphate groups, which are here in yellow. It has this ribose group, which is a sugar, and then it has this adenine group right here in this blue color. And this is really important, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about cellular respiration. But energy, this is mainly used as energy because there's a lot of energy stored in these bonds. And when you break a chemical bond, that basically releases energy. So because there's this three phosphate groups, each of them supplies amount of energy every time they're broken. So that's why ATP is kind of used by our cells, because it has all this energy within its bonds. So there's different types of reactions that happen in our bodies. So the first is called a catabolic reaction. And catabolic reactions release energy. So when you break these bonds right here in a catabolic reaction, it's releasing energy, and that energy can then be used to do some sort of work. The next type of reaction is called an anabolic reaction. And anabolic reactions use energy to do work. They're making something. So they're taking some kind of molecule here and they're using energy to make a new molecule. So catabolic reactions break something down to release energy, and anabolic reactions build something up using energy. And here's just another picture of, this is metabolism. Sorry, it's cut off right here. But again, so an anabolic reaction is using energy and smaller molecules and making something larger. So this would be like when you're making a macromolecule, you're using monomers and you're using energy to make a large molecule, a macromolecule. And a catabolic reaction is when you're breaking down a molecule, and once you break it down, you're releasing energy within those bonds. So many bonds are broken by this process called hydrolysis. So hydrolysis is when you add water to a molecule and it breaks it apart. So you're adding water. So here we have this molecule right here. Water is added, and one of the hydrogen atoms goes to one molecule, and one of the OH atom goes to another molecule. So you're breaking apart these bonds with water. That process is called hydrolysis. And this is very, very common in biology. This happens all the time, so I definitely wanted you guys to know that. And this basically happens when we want to break down ATP. We use this process called hydrolysis to release the energy. So here we have our ATP molecule right here, and we add some water, and that breaks down the ATP molecule into ADP, the phosphate, and energy. So definitely we need to know that you're breaking down ATP with water in a hydrolysis reaction to kind of get that energy within those bonds. And energy is released from processes. So energy, when we want to do a reaction, usually one reaction will kind of drive another reaction, and that's called a coupling reaction. So you're using ATP in one reaction, and then that ATP is then being used for another reaction called a coupling reaction. So for example, when energy is used in a catabolic reaction, so it's broken down and then it's released, and that's by adding the water, then the energy that was released can then be used into a different reaction. So the key points of this presentation were that energy is used to perform work. So in our bodies, it's to have chemical reactions and to drive movement, to move molecules. There's plenty of different ways that our bodies use energy. Energy is converted throughout systems, so you're using energy over and over again. It's being recycled. And like we saw with thermodynamics, it can't be created or destroyed, and some energy is always lost. Energy is released when bonds are broken. So when you break a bond, that's where you get energy. And finally, ATP is the energy that our bodies are using, and it stores lots of energy in its bonds, and that's why our body uses it to its advantage. So I hope you guys learned something today, and please do your videos on Google Form. See you guys next time.